Welcome back to the world of That Which Sleeps, the game where you play an ancient evil rising to take back a world that has forgotten his name. We're going to take some turns and talk about some mechanics. The game begins with the Prophet. He's your first agent. Agents are how you interact with the game. They walk around, they take challenges. At its base, the game's as simple as that, but as you're going to see, the simulation itself has a lot of mechanics, as do the interactions of your agent with it. So, we need to take a look first at the location screen. On the left, you're going to see your basic information panel. It has, at the top, information for the local population. In the wild, there is no population. This is mostly empty. Below that, you'll see infiltration. We'll talk more about that when we get to a city, because infiltration is mostly about building up local assets that expands the actions you can take and your power inside a settlement. Below that's points of interest. Points of interest, we're going to show you what's going on there that you really need to pay attention to. Everything here, from the panels down to the points of interest, can be clicked on. They all offer different sets of abilities, also challenges, minions. You can click and open up the help to see what potential actions are possible here, because you won't see them listed under your challenges when you go to take them, unless you qualify for the action. So, what are we going to do here? We are going to, at first, dominate the north. You have to have a plan. You can't just walk around randomly. You'll never win the game that way. We have the Prophet in the north. We're going to try and dominate a series of creatures, create a slave chain, leading all the way over to the Great Seal, and then begin a dig site. Hopefully finding some ancient wonders and some lost lore. To do that, we need to find a bunch of creatures we can dominate to create that chain. We are looking for orcs, mostly, and you'll see why after I do this. Orcs. Okay, so we have orcs here. We have orcs at the Great Seal, which is convenient. And we also have mostly undead. You can't interact with undead. Let's take a moment and take a look at these creatures. So you see every creature has stats that it offers to the area to slowly change. Lethality does damage, and Arcane Flux can increase wild magic. Mysticism can give lore benefits to those that are researching them. You'll see this is undead. You cannot interact with undead, and we're going to go ahead and actually jump over and interact with the orcs so you can see what the difference is. So after you move, you can take a challenge unless you're in particularly dangerous terrain. Orc, click. Alright, so they are adaptive warmongers. Great. They're mercenaries, means you can recruit from them even if you don't control them, and they are raiders. There are 4 kinds of creatures, or general archetypes: militaristic, peaceful, arcane, and eldritch. Eldritch does random stuff, unique to each creature, but militaristic, peaceful, and arcane are all very predictable. Now, when doing a challenge, the most important thing to look at is dominance, menace, and profile. Dominance not just affects how fast you can perform the challenge, it also affects the rewards you'll get from it, which include recruiting, looting, interactions, the strength of resulting modifiers that you make, and also the encounters that you'll have during the challenge. Every, or almost every challenge above 10 turns will give you at least 1 encounter, and encounters now can be lethal at very low dominance, though they can all be overcome either by taking sacrifices or having the proper trait that can get you around it. So looking at the right side, you're going to see that eye, which means encounter, and below it, the orc minion icon, which means you can recruit here. That means that when you complete this challenge, you'll be able to recruit. There are no more just recruitment challenges. Instead, you do it as part of a reward for finishing a different challenge. On the left, you're going to see your clues: profile, lore, conspiracy, and ancient. Profile is essentially the ability for the AI, and also for you, to see something in the world. A high-profile object will be seen by the AI, which will then decide if it wants to act upon it. Menace is what gives the AI the decision of, is this something worth actually seeing? So it can see it, and then does it want to make a decision based upon it? Alright, so let's just do that. So we're subjugating now. A good start. Now we're going to wait for our second guy to come in. Okay, so when recruiting, there's 3 basic groups. Agents, which start off all accessible but inactive. You can't recruit them until you fulfill particular requirements for them. You can also get corrupted heroes, which generally you won't start with, as well as eternal horrors, which are pretty much late game, though occasionally you'll get them early on. Now, agents, you start with 3 available: the peddler, the rake, and the outcast. Each one has their own area of specialization. The peddler is good for settlements. It's important, though, to look at their combat abilities as well as their traits. These will help you decide what their particular specialty should be. Looking at the stats, these mostly affect combat, though things like Arcana, Horror, and Primal also take effect during encounters. Might, Lore, Intrigue, Command, those are your basic abilities for performing challenges, as well as determining how many minions you can recruit. Each agent also has a special scheme. which is unique to them, and depending on them, some of them are just a challenge, others are constant passive effects, and still others are things that provide ongoing effects globally. So you want to take a look, and this guy, you can tell, plus dominance while in a city location, he is meant to be used in cities. He is your only early infiltrator for cities. Cities are very hard to get into without either destabilizing them or building up assets around them first. The Outcast is your early caster. She has hedge magic, but not sorcery, though you can pick sorcery when you first recruit her. Hedge magic is a benefit, and we'll see that as we start to use her. So we look at these and we think, okay, those are our agents we can recruit now. The Rake, the Outcast, both of them can work with elements of madness from hedge magic or by infiltrating cities. So we're going to try and spread madness into some of the larger cultures. But in addition, we want to plan ahead and figure out which of the next 3 or 4 we're going to recruit. Knowing that I'm trying to consolidate the north, I think that the Horde Master is a great pick. But unfortunately, I need to control an Orc camp. Luckily, I'm about to be doing that in the next 18 turns. At that point, I'll be able to recruit the Horde Master if I have an available agent slot. So we know we want the Rake, so let's take a look at a place for him. Now, you need to use the strategy screen fairly often, especially your first time playing a new scenario or in a randomly generated map. The fact of the matter is, since you can play the entire world, it's very hard to choose where to go. So taking a look, you can look for specific creatures that you want. So if I was looking to recruit madness, I would look to see if I have anything that gives madness and where they're located. But I can also look for statuses. So madness, if there's madness over 200, I can recruit. Oh, nope, there's nothing even close. So instead, we're going to look for a decadent society. Now, obviously, a merchant republic is a great bet for a decadent society. Taking a look at an Orc tribe first, clearly not going to be a good choice for an infiltrator of cities. They actually don't even have cities in general. So let's look at the Merchant Republic of Telerik. Also of note is that when you're not highlighting anything, this heat map here is showing you where there is cultural tension. There's more than one culture in each location, and oftentimes if they don't like each other, it creates unrest over time. So it can be good to also target areas where there's a lot of dissent from cultural tension. Taking a look at how the cultures work, these are pretty much the stance is not permanent. The stance is set by the cultural leader when a cultural crisis occurs or a resolve event in the cultural capital. It has a great impact on what the society is doing, both AI-wise and ability-wise. Being able to subvert that is a pretty good long-term goal for an infiltrator. The cultural structure, though, is pretty much permanent. It only gets changed if you're playing it through the ages. There are values and hates are really just... It affects when they're looking at an AI thing, do I want to take an action upon it? They hate orcs. If they see orcs rising, they're going to crush them earlier than another one might. Customs are much more interesting. Customs affect the challenges you'll find there. So if I see debate, I know that someone who can debate, or gets a bonus to it, might want to go here. Debate can be triggered either through encounters or through political actions. So if I'm trying to pass a law that someone's disagreeing with, I could potentially reduce their influence and increase mine during that. These other ones might allow for actions or would change the way the AI reacts to certain events. So, I know I want to go there. So, let's look over at Telerik, and we have the capital right over here. Capitals are even harder to get inside of, but I have faith in our brave Rake. Now, whenever you recruit a new agent, you have to choose an ability for them. So, 100 gold is a lot in this game, but it's not really... It's really a way to accelerate if you're trying to do something fast and then pretty much off the agent. But I want to keep him around, so I'm going to go with Flesh Weaver. That allows me to essentially subvert certain encounters, which is a great benefit if it's in a low dominance area. Now, what I really want to do is do Underworld Dealings, because it will let me get a unit that lets me create Doomsday Prophets, which is a great early unit to increase cultural burdens. Unfortunately, you can see I'm at negative 91% even with my plus bonus. So, it would be better if I move to a nearby village and start from there. As I gain local assets in a nearby village, I'll gain some slight dominance in the nearby city. If I couple that with some kind of destabilization, I'll be able to get in there and begin to actually infiltrate it. Alright, so before I do there on Friends in Low Places, which is the village equivalent of Underworld, I'm going to do Plant Informants. This is a bread and butter challenge that you should do pretty much all the time. It doesn't trigger an encounter, so you can do it almost anywhere, but it's going to give you pretty important vision. Now, the first 20 or so, you're going to be skipping a lot of turns as you build up your assets. Once you've built up your assets, actions are much faster. The first 100 turns, you're also going to be seeing these sort of introductions to different elements of the game. We don't open up everything right away because the game has a lot to it. So this is good not just for new players, but also for returning players. It gives you a chance to specialize in something else before having to diversify. Alright, so this is opening up your powers. We're playing as Anatha, the Coiled Worm. His big thing is cold, but let's take a look. So he gets 3 abilities to start. Most ancients have between 2 and 4 key abilities that get upgraded and customized during the course of the game. So the first one is just managing the voice itself. The voice starts here, but you can build it not build it, you can create a lore challenge to add it somewhere else. If you ever run out of the voice, you die. So that's bad. But you can, it can become very powerful if you selected certain upgrades for it. Let's just expand it for now. Vocalization, these are actually pretty powerful for an ancient, but they're restricted only, of course, to the voice and things within its range. If we expand it all the way to these other locations, we can select them as well. So you see it just does local damage. There's no one to kill, so it doesn't do any casualties. Okay, and the Heart of Winter is really his signature ability. You can see on the right, it's the climate of these areas, both the current and the base. They will tend back towards the base. So if I want to make this place even colder, if I want to, let's say, if I want to make Sheltered Waste colder, that will force migrations of units out of there because creatures will find it too cold. It's a good way to kind of force the frontiers of civilizations to have to face multiple creatures coming at them, and it's a good distraction. But I can also just target, one of the main places, like in the Common Lands. That will lower their stats, their productivity, but it will also raise their awareness because they'll care more about the fact that it's getting cold. If it's monsters coming at them, they'll care more about the fact that this monster's coming and won't lead back to your name. It actually goes up a lot as you increase them. You'll see it doesn't take any. It changes your ancient power gain per turn. So until you upgrade it, it's really not a good idea to do more than 1 or 2. So those are his powers for now. They do upgrade over the course of the game. So we're going to pass until we get... Oh, this is a scenario choice. So he's friends with an ancient power, so I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to call out to an ancient power. This is an encounter. So you can see the dominance was fairly low, so this isn't too bad, although -3 is way too much for us to pay. Pretty much always, you can always abandon. You can always, not always, but most often you can just delay. And that's the bad choice, but you're often forced into it, at least early game you are. Okay, so here we go. We get to choose. It creates a person modifier that creates an asset. Local assets are never generated just on their own. They're generated by either an event, or by a person, or by an artifact. It's something that actually exists and can be examined by the AI. So we're going to just go to Innkeeper. He's the safe choice. He expands the ability... Oh, someone leveled up too. It's got to be the agent, the Prophet. The Prophet gains experience over time. Pretty much no one else does. Everyone else has very unique ways in which they have to gain it. So you have three different branches: body, mind, and spirit. Body is unique to the race. So in other words, all humans and pretty much all lesser races will have the same thing. Mind is half unique, half special to the ancient. And spirit is special to the ancient, but mostly to the actual agent as well. So there's some of the stuff is actually immediate effects. That's not for everybody, but you can also gain traits, change your stats. I'm just going to go ahead and get this because it's fantastic. Unsubtle Shadow. We should be... Oh, there we go. Oh, I didn't start the rates next to action. So he's going to infiltrate now. Now that we have Plant Informants... Actually, before we do that, let's take a look. So now I can actually look and see what characters are here. They have the mayor's fairly strong with 26%. So to interact with a character, you have to have reach that exceeds their influence. Reach is in the infiltration thing. I have 5% now. It's equal to, you get a bonus for owning local assets, you get your intrigue, but then you also get a big bonus from having someone else under your control. So if I were to get Eugenia Bon, I would add 1%. If I had Leonardo, I would get another 5%, which is pretty important if you're trying to do politics. You want to get over 10%. Over 10% gives you a local asset called High Society, which you otherwise have no way of gaining. Okay, so going back in here, also I can look and see if they have any... Ooh, they have an unidentified artifact agent. So these are only at 50, my rumors value, so there's probably more that are hidden by characters. This is just what they have in their local repository. So the way research is done... Well, we'll actually cover that later on when I do some research. So going back over here, we want to do friends in low places. We want to get underworld contacts. That opens up a lot of potential. So also I have someone new to recruit. Let's get her in the game. Let's get her down somewhere fun where she can do a lot of stuff. Hedge magic is the only thing that has an early ritual that affects adjacent locations, so you always want to put her in the middle of stuff. So you can give her sorcery, but sorcery is actually pretty easy to get within 30-40 turns. So Shadow Elemental is another good one. It gives her a defensive bonus when she's in the wild, which she will spend a lot of time there. So Hedge magic gives you Banes that convert status. That's its kind of signature thing. Very useful, but we're going to do Visions in the Mist, because that starts by creating a Formless Horror, which adds terror. So all these things generally take down by 1 a turn. So in other words, it's taking me 18 turns to cast this, but with its base strength, it'll last a while, so we'll be okay. So 150 turns is going to be, you have enough time to stack up multiple ones around it, refresh it, or create more things to capitalize on the chaos it'll cause. Oh, I also wanted to mention, well, next time we cast, we'll talk about sorcery and masteries. And, okay, so everything's going on here. So the prophecy unlocks next. The prophecy, well, let's just go right to the screen. The prophecy is that there is an adventurer, I'm not going to say hero, because he can be quite villainous, that is going to stop you. What it wants to do is go straight down this list and get 1 from each row. If it does that, it gets not a game-ending ability, but as close to a game-ending ability as exists in the game. And it depends upon its archetype: leader, sage, adventurer, or priest. So this is 80% of them have this. That's going to be a young race, because elder races really change the way the game works. So you can find, it tells you where you can find them: ancient, planar, elder. Most of them I think are common. And as you find them, you'll see what it wants them to do, and you'll see also, if you've observed it, when it gets satisfied. And you can play to this, or you can not play this. You don't have to, but again, if he gets all of them, if he or she gets all of them, they will be pretty tough. Alright, so we're just going to wait for these to go. Like I said, there's a lot of just passing turns early on. Just a new Overlord. And Overlords are like super modifiers. Super creature modifiers. They can control multiple creatures and eventually create their own nation or horde out of it, whatever their particular interest is. There's an ambush. Ambushes are interesting because there's a recipient character on the other end, meaning that this will have effects that affect someone else. You see, it's unknown because I have no observation of them. Mementos are interesting. That allows you to cast spells or hunt down a person. Usually it's used for hexes, but you can also use it here just to scry and find who the person is. I'll just do warning receive because I have no underworld influence yet. So, okay, upgrading is, we'll jump right into that. So I got rid of the big background thing. That's all in the codex now. This pane now will show you your progress of your name and also your upgrades and your path to victory. Notice that there's a regular victory, which is the lesser victory that everyone has. Everyone also has one unique victory at least. Some of them can change them during the course of the game. So the real victory for Natha is make the world very, very cold. Now, looking at his names, you'll notice Winter's Heart's already pulsating. It's because it's not based on just them finding clues. It's actually just based on what is, how many of it exists in the world. So it being Arctic in this case. So Arctic coverage is at whatever percentage. So the AI only needs to find the remaining percentage of clues for your abilities to then say, oh, look, it's the Winter's Heart. They won't say it's enough. They'll say it's Winter's Heart is returning. And as that increases, they'll need less and less clues. So upgrades are very powerful. You need to choose wisely. I want to find something with madness, obviously, because so that is Madness and Despair, but it's actually kind of early to use a vocal thing, but let's do it because it'll probably come in handy anyway. And Disturbances is just another kind of encounter. Ooh, nah, don't want to risk it right now. Limal Gate this is another thing opening up. So the planes are on the bottom. You're going to see plane navigation. The Limal Gate is the way to get to the abyss from the realms below. So we can actually pop it down to the realms below. So you see, I can't see anything down here right now. Unlike the realms above, you can't see anything down here until you actually infiltrate. You get to see the Limal Gate once it happens. But that's it. And that's, if you want to go to the abyss, that's the only guaranteed way in. It is somewhere that will absolutely kill you unless you have a bunch of proper traits for it. But it's a great place to get... you can bring agents back from the dead, get ancient loot, all that wonderful stuff. And, so just to see what, these are all just, you can always see raid, tension, and resolve events. They're global, and you can pay attention to see, but if they are different, if you're watching something, so you can click on something and click watch, there'll be a different color and they'll pop to the top, so you can actually see things that matter to you more. So picking the two, Craven Snitch is sort of the way to see people above you, so we could see who that unknown person was. Well, not necessarily. And then a good lookout is the safe one. So let's go with the safe one. We don't want that. So what am I doing here now? I've created that. I want to recruit, because now I can get minions from the underworld, as well as the Eisenir minion, which I think is a scout. So I'm going to do one of these. I also want money, so I'm going to raid to get... That's not much, because this place is poor. Wow, this place is going broke. It's amazing. But this will let me recruit, which is what I really care about. Okay, so now I get to choose. This is just a built off of the earlier one I chose, where I'm sending out. I choose either the deep ones, the Court of Bone, or Enoch. I will definitely choose Enoch, because he is the most fun. He makes things blow up. So now we subjugated our first creatures. So this is where you recruit. Now, see that they have those values that are the same as Might, Intrigue, Lore, Command. I can only have up to that value, and I can only recruit one right now because my dominance is only a certain amount. If you have more dominance, you can occasionally recruit legendary ones as well, which is just a base one given an extra trait. So take a look at these guys. They have combat stats for when you're attacked for the confrontation, but they also give you a trait, and more importantly, rolls. Rolls are fantastic. Rolls allow you to deploy a minion. It means he's gone from inventory, but he adds a quality to something. Here you can do creatures or work sites, and that's very important, and we'll use that right now, actually. So I can only hold as many minions as I have total of the value. So this guy's already taking up most of my command and half of my might. So let's do that. Head back over here. We're going to open up that guy. And we're going to deploy this guy. So what happens is now he has slavers. So in his inventory, he's going to slowly get slaved. There's not many guys here. There's only white Scarl Vormi. There's no people. It won't be very fast. The fastest way is to do it in a settlement. You get a lot, but you also get a lot of threat and profile. But these guys are also strong. They're at 276. They're going to trigger a raid. A raid will bring a massive influx. So then I can either take them myself and bring them somewhere, to a worksite or to another camp, or I can build stuff on the way. I can build another place on the way back to the Great Seal, and they will automatically transfer if I indicate in the site to bring slaves here. So we are going to now go back and... Yeah, we don't need to do orcs, though. So we have Scarl and Vormi. Scarl have Storyteller, which is a great ability, but here it's going to do nothing for me. No one's going to walk through here. And then we have Vormi, have Scavenger. And actually, this is good because we're on an ancient ruin. Well, it's not exposed yet, but we're on an ancient ruin. It will be exposed hopefully soon. So if I subjugate them, I have access to their inventory. They will sometimes pick up ancient things from the ruin for free. So same thing, we're going to subjugate these guys. It's always good to start up here with a few. It takes a while, yes, but it's a great way to accumulate power that will last for a long time, unless heroes or armies come through. This is just saying it's another rival. This could be a false rumor, or it could actually be there. He could actually not be in the game. The Rake is having an encounter. Oh, this is good because we see Wicked Delight. So green is, you can use a trait for it. And what happens is it subverts this and gets its own thing. There's another one, for Flesh Weaver. So Wicked Delight's is strength. Wicked Delights get stronger every time. So we trigger this, and we can, because Flesh Weaver depends on the quality of the person, which is the quality, and this is a common person because it's just a regular event, so we can make a gibbering abomination. Okay, so that's good, and I'm still waiting on these. I should be getting my next guy soon. Oh, there we go. Alright, the Horde Master comes into play. He's great. You can always go to the Great Seal, but we don't want to be in the same spot, though it doesn't really matter. It's always good to get Legendary Orc Lord, because you will get a ton of extra guys. But you can also... Sorry, I should have looked at that. The other ones are you can recruit immediately, you can muster right away. So sometimes you can leave the Horde Master to later in the game, and it can be a very important thing to deploy him. Later, you'll see a lot of the guys have the same kind of possibly instant effect abilities. And we're going to muster. Yes, we are going to muster a Horde. So it musters within range and ability because it's different. You can see he's a ton of dominance for this. Because he's an Orc Lord and Legendary, he gets a 2-space muster. He won't just muster the guys loyal to you here. He'll muster every Orc. And eventually you can upgrade him to get every Goblin kind and Ogres and Furbolg. And so he'll muster a giant Horde. And we're going to use that either to smash that Orc Nation down there or to go get Shade. Probably get Shade because I'd rather the Orcs stay because they'll just do their raids. Okay, so... okay. Oh, yeah, so... This is like plus 20 profile for plus 50 strength is amazing because no one cares right now. There's no threat. No one's going to be tracking her down. So that's a great. And now we're going to go make a ritual circle, which takes forever, but it lets you cast grand rituals, which you really want to be casting. Although she doesn't have sorcery yet, but she'll get it from this. So we're going to form a circle. This gives you the ritual circle local asset. And we now... okay, this is... Ancient diplomacy is not like regular diplomacy. Good diplomacy is just really bars going back and forth between diplomats, and the higher numbers, the higher result, cultures go up and down. Ancient diplomacy is more like Civ, where you can talk to the guys, but they don't go by just non-treaties and stuff. Pacts are actually binding. They remove your ability to do stuff. That's implemented mainly because the AI for it was otherwise impossible. So this is like, if I agree to this here, I can't go to the realms below, he can't go to the surface. But I also get favor with him, so I do want to do that because his favors are amazing. If you build up enough, I think it's like 500, you can use them to smash up any city on the map, if he's okay with it. Nothing's guaranteed with the Ancients. They do pursue their own goals during the game. I won't cover this now because we only have one guy to talk to, but you do tasks for them if you want. You get points, and you can ask them for things. They do a lot of very specialized. They're not as versatile as you are, but they have much greater power in certain areas. Okay, so we just want to... we want to get our Doomsday guy coming up. Yes, so we raided, and what we want... This is going to show regular townsfolk from a village. There's not too many. But we can get Preacher. We can get the back alley Preacher because we have the underworld contacts. The False Prophet is a great ability for many, many reasons. And Preacher's good if you're playing the religion game, which you'll need lots of Preachers. But False Prophet's great because you can create our friend... We'll just do it right here. And a Doomsday Prophet shows up. Okay, so he slowly makes terror. It doesn't really matter, but the random Ancient Rite in Terror or Unrest Crisis is fantastic. Essentially, to create an Ancient Rite, usually deep ones have to rise, or you have to do something you have to get them to unrest and then do something. This makes a random one occur. It can be bad because sometimes it helps your rivals if you have rivals in the game, but generally speaking, it's a great way to get a culture quickly down one of the ancient perversion paths. Alright, so we're going to stop here before we get into the dominant... Oh, the city's going through unrest. You can see the red border. Before we get into the cities, we'll do that next time. We'll also be raiding one of the two nations up top, probably Shade. Alright, until then...